Do sim racing skills carry over to real life? Well, that's what we're going to find out today, because real life Arca series driver Brayton Laster enlisted my help to get him ready for his real life Arca race this weekend at Iowa. So let's see how it went. All right, I am here with Brayton Laster. How are you doing today?
I am fantastic, let me tell you.
Oh yeah, and for the few people maybe who don't know who you are, you want to give a quick introduction about yourself?
Well, yeah, I'm Brayton, like you just said. I'm based out of Indianapolis, and I'm one of the few stock car guys out of this area. I run primarily around the Midwest, but also East Coast and whatnot. I race in the Arca Menard series part-time for fast track racing. This weekend running Iowa, Speedway, ran Daytona, Talladega, Charlotte, Nashville, a couple other tracks. I race primarily dirt late models and a variety of other cars like school buses, Hornets, street stocks.
Awesome. And then one other thing I want to get out of the way, we are practicing for your upcoming Arca race, but the elephant in the room is we are not driving the Arca car. And can you give a quick explanation of why that is?
The Arca car in iRacing, for example, has like a Gen 4 steel body, when Arca has had composite bodies since like 2014.
Yeah.
And the drivetrains and everything is different, and the Xfinity B-Class car is one of the ones we figured that was like most closest to the realistic driving style of the real life Arca car.
Yeah, the iRacing Arca car is just a little too floaty, a little too loose in general to kind of model the actual Arca car. So we have kind of a twofold approach to approaching the real life Arca car in the sim. One is just straight up with the B-Fix Xfinity car to model sort of the rear end grip at these tracks. And then also we're going to be trying out some of the 2013 Gen 6 cars with a slightly altered setup that will help show lesser front grip than this Xfinity car has. So the huge thing about Iowa is that the corner starts way earlier than you think it does.
But I feel like it has such a late apex.
So there's so many lines that you can take at Iowa. It's more about maximizing your entry and kind of determining what line you're on once you make your entry. So sometimes the late apex is good. Sometimes you want to get on a seam and just kind of hook it. The one place that's an absolute no-go, and it's probably like this in real life because I can't imagine it's any better, bumps on the top of 1 and 2 are just an absolute no-go. You cannot survive through those.
Like up by the wall?
Yeah, right by the wall.
Oh, it's gonna hurt. God.
That's crazy.
Jesus.
I mean, you look pretty comfortable so far.
I always feel like I'm gonna hit the wall coming out of 4, but like, I just don't.
Yeah, it's pretty wide.
So do you have a lot of like coasting? I know last time you said you're either on the brake or on the gas. There's not a whole lot of timer.
Yeah, I am a huge proponent of no coasting. That is one of my biggest mottos to people, and I just have not run into a oval track that coasting is better than trail braking and partial throttle. Because the reasoning is the trail braking is going to get you rotation, and the partial throttle is going to maintain your momentum better. And through any point in the corner, you're either going to want rotation or you're going to want to maintain your momentum. There's never really a point where you want neither of those things. So I trail my brake for probably longer than you are, and then I go to partial throttle, and then I go full throttle when I'm on exit. And what that partial throttle does as well is it makes it so that you're not rushing to get back to full throttle. Because if you're coasting, one very common thing to do is to rush back onto full throttle, and that'll cause a lot of mistakes. 24.221. And we'll see that when we take a look at the telemetry too. Okay, so here we see I am the blue line and you are the red line. And honestly, most of our difference comes from the lines itself. So turn 1 and 2 is where most of the difference comes from. So the line isn't quite as different here, but we can see kind of a difference in our throttle and our brake. You can see I'm carrying a lot of speed through the center of the corner. You can see this top speed up here, you see this? And you enter just a little bit later than I do, and what that allows me to do is I carry more speed into that point. Yeah. And that comes from the braking, right? So my trail braking is around 10% and pretty consistent, whereas your trail braking is more at that 20-ish percent, and then you kind of back it down at the end. But one mega thing I want to show you that is pretty much the entire difference here is that you see how my braking to slow down, that's kind of a spike. So I have like one moment where I put my brake at that 25-30%, and then I back it down almost instantly. Whereas you kind of sustain that 30%, and what that'll do is a couple of things. It'll cause your car to kind of go straight at the beginning of your turn, which will kind of hurt your angle, and then of course it'll slow you down a little longer. So what I recommend is back up your corner a little bit more, and then go straight to that trail brake as early as possible. And you see, I even carry it a little bit longer than you do, but that's just because I'm using it for rotation.
I could have gotten throttle.
Yeah, you can definitely get a little bit more aggressive on the throttle. Yeah, I really like the consistency down here. That's your best lap of the session so far. Great job. You're definitely getting more rotation on your brake now, which is very helpful for the rest of your corner. I don't know if you've noticed that yet.
Oh yeah, like the front grip is so much there.
So one of the most important things for saving your tire in these cars is angling your car at the turn before the turn even starts. Some people call it grip flicking. I kind of just call it a pre-turn, because that's how I kind of think of it. Because if you're getting your car pointed in the right direction slightly before you actually start turning, it's going to mean that you use a lot less steering wheel to get where you want to go. So you see how I'm coming off the wall kind of early? That's on purpose, because it's helping me use less steering wheel throughout the corner. So sometimes your lap times will look good by really overdriving a corner, but especially when you're on a set of tires that's being used for the past year, you want to maximize those. So entering your corner earlier, not just letting off the gas and getting on the brake earlier, but getting that proactive turn into the corner, that's going to be how you maximize your tires, because you ask the least amount from them by doing that.
I ask them nicely.
Yeah, you ask them nicely. You don't force it on them.
But we run General tires, real life, and we run such a hard compound. So you can actually run like a set for damn near the entire race.
Right.
Dover is one of the few tracks that actually have tire problems. But that's it. Like Daytona and Talladega, 80 laps, 200 miles, you can run the same set.
Right. And then bring them back for next year.
Yeah.
So yeah, this setup was actually based off of a setup I got from Jeff McConey himself for this car, and I just reworked it a bit so it would work at Iowa and at least be passable. And I think it's a good training setup. The main difference that I want to show you with this is that I'm not even peaking with the brake. It's like all trail brake with this setup. And so that's what I think it might be like in the Arca car. It's very possible with how you guys are running that it'll just be all trail brake and no peaky brake. You don't have to slow down as much for the corners. A lot more trail brake, but an earlier braking point, because going full brake in this setup would kind of kick the rears out, and I think that's what it's going to be like in real life with what you talked about, the lack of front stability on entry.
Yeah, I kind of discovered that going into turn one a couple laps ago. That you got on them like real hard off suddenly, and I was like, oh! So
I think, in my professional opinion, that has never driving a real race car in my lifetime, is that what you're going to experience on Saturday is going to be a mix between these two setups. I think that the entry of this setup is going to be very much what you feel, and I think the exit of the B-Fix setup is going to be what you feel.
So, are you doing like an early entry then, and then just like kind of trail brake throughout the whole corner?
Yep, so that's essentially what I'm doing, is I'm backing up my corners and just trail braking until the car weight shifts. It's probably a lot easier to feel weight shifts in real cars than it is to feel weight shifts in these cars, but the way that I tell on sim if the car is weight shifted is if the car wants to turn down the hill instead of wanting to go up and hit the wall. And the moment that it wants to turn down the hill instead of going up to hit the wall, that's when I transfer from my trail braking to my partial throttle. Whereas in real life, you'll be able to actually feel that happen, and it'll be a little easier for you. But it's same thing goes for real life. you want that transfer from trail brake to partial throttle to line up exactly when you feel that weight shift. You don't want to beat it, but you don't want to wait too long after it either. Hopefully that makes sense to you.
Yes, yes.
I get kind of nervous talking about real life race car things and pretending I know what I'm talking about.
I mean, that was like, that was about as professional and as much as I would expect, like a real life driving coach, like from Toyota or Ford or something, like to explain it. That was like the most simple, best way you could have put it, to be honest.
Well, that's fortunate for me, I guess, and you as well. When you drove at Nashville Fairgrounds, did it feel like you were making a peak with your brake, or did you feel like you were trail braking for the entire time?
It was more or less trail braking the entire time.
Yeah, I kind of figured that, and so I think this car might help with that too. Because I can't imagine those cars have the best stopping power in the world.
Yeah, they're not ideal.
They were made to go, they weren't made to stop.
Pretty much, yeah.
First off, it felt like we were trail braking the entire time, so this looks a little bit weird, but look at our peak, it's 25%. So we were essentially trail braking the entire time, but within our trail brake the entire time, you still have the peak instead of a plateau, which is great. That's exactly what I want. And guess what? That rewarded you by being able to get on the throttle early. But there was one main difference here, and it's look at the steering angle. So when I get on the throttle, I'm able to maintain and then unload the wheel. And then when you got on the throttle, you had to turn the wheel a little harder. What does that tell you? Pop quiz. If you have to turn the wheel harder after getting on the throttle.
That I got on it too early?
Yes, and what happened is that you didn't get the weight transfer. You didn't time the weight transfer quite right. So the weight transfer happened slightly after you got on the throttle, which meant that you had to force your wheel a little harder. In a hot lap scenario, that's fine. But in a race, that's something that you don't want to do.
And over the length of the race, I'd kill my tires.
Right. Well, make sure to catch Brayton out there Saturday the 15th on FS2. See Brayton out there in action and see if he's plateauing or he's peaking. Thanks a lot, Brayton, for coming out.
Yep, thank you for having me. It was a blast, and hopefully we put something we learned tonight to the actual test.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for watching. Hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope to see you all on the track.